listeners. This is Chris Jantzen with the End Evil podcast. End Evil podcast is created for people who care about truth, for people who care about freedom, who are trying to work on imagining a world without so much evil in it. Imagine that it's possible. Today, I brought a special guest to have a conversation with me, Shane Radliff, who I met quite a few years ago and reconnected with just last week. And what's up, Shane? How you doing?
Hey, man. Yeah, it's good to reconnect, and I'm really happy to chat. I was, very happy to hear that you hear about your new podcast, and yeah, it's great to be chatting again.
Cool, man. Yeah, so I know you have at least 2 websites, if not more. When I originally met you, you were running libertyunderattack.com. And then later on, you started up with the Vonu podcast. Maybe you could just describe a little bit what about your websites and what they contain for people who don't know.
Sure. Yep. And it was a little choppy there, but I got the question. I've got the gist of it. But yeah. So I started Liberty Attack Radio back in 2015. That was my first venture. Just started. Really had no idea about anything back then. Still don't know much more now, but I know a little bit more, at least I think. But yeah, didn't really know much. It was kind of just just kind of decided randomly to start a radio show, and within a few months, I found I came across some anarchists, and I guess it wasn't too long after that I kind of adopted that label and kind of the philosophy that came with it, the peaceful philosophy that came with it, and yeah, Vonu podcast came down the road from there, which is can talk more about Vonu, but just real briefly, it's an awkward contraction of the words voluntary and not vulnerable. And it's premised around becoming as invulnerable to the coercion of the servile society, the state, and the state and the servile society, I guess. So the state and also the culture, I guess the coercive culture that allows such an environment, such a institution to exist. So I started so Vonu, that podcast is dedicated to really just reviving this long lost freedom strategy that I guess kind of really went defunct in the 1980s. I guess really before that in the 1970s, whenever Rayo, the founder of the freedom strategy, disappeared. But yeah, we're trying to bring back that freedom, this freedom strategy, and yeah, I guess just show people that freedom really is possible in the here and now. And that's really what all my work is encompassed around, and that morphed into the Free Republic of P.A.Z.nia, where my 22-acre homestead here, where it's what I hope will eventually turn into intentional community. But for right now, I've got it's really just I've got some people that come through here, some like-minded folks who live in their vans and travel a lot. They come here. Like-minded people are always welcome to camp here. We've got a few events here at the Self-Liberator's Paradise, as I call it. We've got VonuFest 2 coming up at the end of the year, and we're really just trying to bring. Especially after the past year or so, freedom really kind of seems like a lost cause to a lot of people, and it's not. I mean, we're here doing it now, and that's what we're trying to demonstrate here. Is that we can have these pockets of freedom in physical space and time, despite what inspiring, in the external environments around us. And
what was your term you used? Something paradise for your land?
Yep, the Self-Liberator's Paradise is one of the taglines.
Oh, okay, great, I love it. That's good news. Yep. I remember when we first met and I first started checking out your website, you were doing a series about direct action, and that's kind of why I remembered to wear my shirt today, because I found that was pretty inspiring. And okay. You still have that available, right?
Yes. The direct action series is still available. The link still should be libertyattack.com/DAS. Yep. And they all should still be available and available for download. And if not, then let me know, because there's a problem there.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll check that out when I go through this show. And I think that's a big deal, because when I got into studying about freedom and learning about anarchy, and even looking into libertarianism on the way, there were very few action takers in my research. And when I came across you as one of the first people who was saying, what are we actually going to do about this situation, instead of arguing about the nuances of you know where we should make borders, or you know all the little things that people like to disagree about. You
Yeah.
were actually looking for real strategies to change your life. So I'd be curious if you maybe could just go over a few of those kind of bullet points of things that people can do to work towards freedom.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I should start by saying like none of this would no like I guess where I ended up now is not definitely not what definitely was not planned, definitely not where I expected. There's a lot of things that like a lot of the position like a lot of I guess much of the position I'm in now is from networking over the past 5 or 6 years within in the liberty community. It's just from all of the connections. But really, I guess I would say that what's been most impactful for me is really the networking, and again, I never thought it would have transpired into, I guess, into such, again, like physical space and time, but it definitely has. But I guess the most important thing, and it hasn't changed. We started season 2 of the Vonnie podcast with it, but it's financial independence. It's really the first step, because if you're dependent upon a mainstream income, it's going to suck up a lot of your time. And if you don't have time to, you get home from that 9 to 5 servile society job, you don't have a lot of time and energy to investigate some of these other topics, these other important topics or areas that should get attention. And also too, it's just hard to break that cycle. I've been there. I've definitely been there, and it's not easy to climb up to climb up the ladder, especially if you're a freedom-minded individual. It's definitely not easy. So that's the first thing I've always kind of recommended is, as much as you possibly can, if yeah, as much as you possibly can, work towards financial independence. And if you can't retire, I guess find ways to monetize find ways to monetize what you love doing. So like, for example, like I found Rayo and Vonu and all of these old Vonu publications, and it takes a lot of time to digitize those. So I decided to write a book myself, and published it, and realized, why don't I go ahead and I could publish those as paperbacks. They're available for free, but I could publish those as paperbacks, and they'd be cool little collectors items, and people could support my work if they wanted to, and it's better than just asking for a donation. So I decided to give that a shot. And it's just, again, the networking is really paying off in that regard too. So I would say, like, if you're financially independent now, great. That frees up a lot of time. But if you can't retire, definitely try to be able to do what you love, and live in alignment with your principles. But yeah, it's yeah, I guess more generally speaking, though, really just figure out where you are in your stage of Vonu and freedom. I mean, the thing I love about Vonu is it's highly individualized, because we're all in different places, all in different positions. Some people have families, some are individuals like myself. And it all depends on where you are, and also what you want out of life. So figure out where you are in your pursuit of honor or freedom. And I guess the way that I've been conceptualizing it lately, and I guess really as of late, is just how many ties and connections to the state and the servile society do you have? And what are the easiest and most painless ones to get rid of? Just start cutting those ties, and eventually you'll get down to where you have 1, 2, or 3 of these little ties left. And I guess you get to a position where I am now, where it's like, holy shit, like there's not very many areas of dependence. So I guess there's really no perfect solutions. And it's not easy. But really the idea is that freedom is possible, and there's this abundance of strategies and solutions out there, whether it's Vonu, whether it's agorism, building the second realm, which we've talked about a lot, over on the Vonu podcast. There's an abundance of solutions out there, and there's really no reason for people to think that what's is portrayed in government controlled media or any of those coercive avenues. That's not reality. That doesn't have to be a reality. Yeah, that's kind of that's kind of what I toss out there right now.
Love it. And I like that aspect too of building something new, rather than a lot of people have this idea that we can take this existing system and we just need to fix it, and it's like, no, it's unfixable. What we need to do is build something better and let it fall apart. When something better is shining forward, then people will jump over to that. So, creating a good example. But kind of going back to the beginning, what I skipped over, I wanted to ask you was, okay, like you described how it's been this process, going from when you first got into this freedom stuff and you're trying to do the direct action series and you're doing interviews with various people, and you kind of got down this road that led you to the Vonu. And as a reminder for people, that's, working towards becoming invulnerable to government coercion or any kind of coercion as far as that goes. I'm curious what inspired you to work so hard on this. I mean, you've been doing this website and audio books and weekly shows for years now. Like you said 2015, so that's an easy 5-6 years, if not more.
Yeah.
What inspired you? How come you put so much energy into this?
Yeah. So yeah, it was, I think my first YouTube video was in like November of 2014, or something like that. November, December of 2014. And then LUA Radio was 2015. So yeah, it's crazy to think about. It's been that long, but, really, I don't know, man. Like I came across 9/11 Loose Change, and I think it was 2011. And I didn't immediately, go down this path, but it was like the first thing that kind of shook me. It shook me awake a little bit. But it was probably 6 months or a year afterwards where, there wasn't really any other option. Like, and looking back on it now, it's very, very clear. But there wasn't really any other option. I tried for like 5-6 years to do the Survival Society, jobs. I tried, and I had a couple of good ones that I enjoyed. It's just I couldn't do it. Wasn't really cut out for me. And then also too, it's just what more important work is there? I mean, there's so many people that are just tied up in these, and before 2020, it was bad enough being tied up in, a 9-to-5 job that you didn't like, but now like people are having to go through all this extra nonsense, that could put their health, at risk, to have a job, to be able to put food on their table. Like, that's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. So like, as far as why, why there's no other more important things to be doing at this point. And Rayo, I guess, realized this back in the 1960s that, got to find a way to survive, or you got to find a way to, do what he called, liberty at a profit. And try to make it where you can, fund your, live frugally and live minimally, and, try to, live free and live free and independently. So I guess that's it's a good question. It's a good question, and there's not really a one answer to it. But it just comes down to, I don't know, like what I don't know how better I could be spending my time. What's more important? And I know, the Great Work Network. I mean, that's what it is, right? It's the great work. It's bringing about a peaceful, non-coercive society. It's changing things drastically.
You got it, man. And how else are we going to end evil if we don't recognize what evil is? And I always quote Jeremy Locke from the book The End of All Evil. He says evil is the destruction of freedom. And I think you hit the nail on the head. What is more important than human freedom? And if you were to think, future generations looking back at how we spent our time, if people aren't spending their time battling for freedom in the type of times we're living in, they're wasting their time, And I think it's pretty exceptional that you came to realize this at a much younger age than I did. And so, I really look up to you for that. But I mean, part of what I'm thinking about next is, okay, when I came to realize that our world or our culture is so deeply controlled and in a state of slavery, it was like a shock to me to realize that, and I had lived for 40 years almost before that really sunk in. And so it occurs to me there's a lot of other people that are going through this process that I went through and that you went through, and maybe they're just a couple steps down the journey. And so that's kind of the hope, hopefully the people I'm trying to reach, people that have kind of already realized some of this stuff and they're going through the shock. And then I think it helps to kind of help them understand that it's a process. Once you realize this stuff, to becoming someone who's trying to do something about it, or someone like you who's done a bunch about it and already feeling like you're coming to recognize freedom in your own life. What I'm getting at is it's not easy. It's a frustrating, difficult process. So I thought I'd ask you for some advice for people on how to get through that process without losing their mind, and how to kind of
sorry, it was
how to
it
make
was a
that
little
transition.
robot-y there, and I had your voice sped up a lot.
Oh yeah, our connection's getting kind of funky. Yeah, I was just talking about the transition and process people have to go through, and I'm hoping we could give folks some advice
Sure.
on how to get past the realization, that that we're in a culture of slavery, and how to make that change happen, how to get through that time.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, and I'll be honest, like I'm still mind blown like daily, with a lot with just with things, with things I'm learning, I'm digging into and learning. So, yeah, it's hard to wrap your mind around. I kind of made the joke that, like, I was a sheep until last year, until 2020, because I was like, there was just so many areas of dependence. There was there was so many important things I wasn't looking into. I made myself extremely vulnerable by not doing so. And I kind of yeah, I guess yeah, last year was like, as for a lot of other people, as you said, even for me, like I've been doing the direct action stuff for like 4 or 5 years, but like yeah, it's hard to comprehend the scale of the deception and the manipulation, and just the yeah, just the scale of things. Certainly is. Um, but again, it's I've come to realize, especially over the past year, that it's about kind of enjoying the process of education and knowledge, and that's that's seeking for truth. And like that's really that's kind of where I'm at now, is just appreciating the journey, and really I appreciating the journey, but also not becoming complacent. I'm still building here, and here at P.A.Z.nia on my homestead here. But yeah, it definitely takes time. It definitely takes time. And so, like I said, it was not an immediate process for me. I spent years just, and there was higher level indoctrination too, college, within that too. So I mean, yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy, but I'm kind of stumbling over my words here, but really just I'd say enjoy it, appreciate the journey, and I guess and what you're finding out as much as you can, and then work to build something better, is really yeah, really what I can offer. And so look to places like P.A.Z.nia, look to websites like freedomcells.org, and so get with like-minded folks, because that's yeah, it's definitely important to be around like-minded people at this point in time.
Yeah, that helps make the journey smoother, and that's something I wish I would have caught on to even sooner. Although thinking back, it was cool that I I reached out and met with you, and we had done that, mastermind thing for a while, which was cool. It was like a weekly check-in. How are you doing on your project? And that's one way people can connect with others, through Freedom Cell Network, through mastermind groups, seeking out other like-minded individuals online. We still have that capability. So that's something that can be used, because you need support. It's lonely and scary and frustrating to realize that you've become to see a world that everybody around you doesn't see, and you try to talk about it, and people treat you like you're crazy or nuts or something. And shit, I mean, I remember you telling me about when you were in college and they were practically...
And that's important too, is to trust yourself, because even people that you love and that you think you should be able to, that you can trust in a lot of areas, for sure. You can trust in a lot of areas, but people that you love will still drag you back into slavery and servitude unknowingly, and unknowingly, or I guess just accidentally, for sure.
Or to make themselves feel better, right?
Yeah.
Misery loves company.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I forgot what I was gonna
say, I remember you were talking about when you were in college, and you were noticing so often in your classes that they were pretty much teaching like socialism or communism. Yeah, I almost equate those two as the same thing, but there is differentiation. But how like normalized it was shocking to you back then, and that was what, 6 years ago. Or wasn't it like right in the curriculum and stuff, as I recall? I remember hearing you talk about
at front and center. There was no no hiding it whatsoever. No. And looking back, it's I guess from what I've discovered, I guess college had been controlled for a lot longer than just that. So I guess it shouldn't have been surprising to me then. But yeah, it was right up front and center, and just open advocacy for a lot of things we're seeing now transpiring. There's a lot of it. I guess I could mention, I haven't mentioned this series in a long time, but I did write an article series called Adventures in Illinois Higher Education, where I talked about some of those experiences. So yeah, people are interested in checking that out, libertariantech.com. I haven't thought about that in a little while. Yeah.
I'm reminding you of old times.
Not necessarily good ones,
why don't you tell us?
Well, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, it's always a mixed bag, in a world of slavery. So, tell us a little bit more about recent work. You mentioned the second realm. I'd like to understand that a little better.
Sure. So, so I guess the first thing I'll say is that we did a series on over at Libertarian Attack, and also released on the Vonu podcast called Building the Second Realm. If you go to vonupodcast.com/second realm clips, there's the episode guide. But essentially, the first realm is if you're talking about the second realm, I always like to start with the first realm, and the first realm is it's the servile society, that term I've been using this entire time. It's the slave society. It's the reason that we do what we do, Chris. It's that society. Well, that's the first realm. It's the society of servitude. Well, the second realm is I mentioned P.A.Z.nia, and P.A.Z.nia is trying to make it a physical example of what one of these is. But the second realm is essentially just a pocket of freedom where we can live in freedom now, and in accordance with our principles. It'd be great to live in a free world where we can live in accordance with non-aggression. But I want to live in that world now. So I'm building a pocket of freedom where we can do that. So that's the idea of building second realms. They can be physical or digital. Physical is more important now they're both important, but physical is what I'm focusing on. But you can also have digital second realms. So these would be things like deep web IRC chats, for cypherpunk term, crypto anarchy term for folks who might be familiar. but things like Open Bazaar, like deep web marketplaces, the Silk Road, the infamous Silk Road, would have been, I guess, an example of one of these digital second realms, at least to some extent. And really, the idea is just where we, building these areas where we can be free. That's what that's what it comes down to. Obviously, there's a lot of other things in there too. It's really a combination of say agorism, temporary autonomous zones, permanent autonomous zones, and I guess just a general anarchist strategy, and then also very much security culture. We talk about security culture a lot on the Vonu podcast too, but really it's just the merging of a lot of strategies so that we can experience freedom in the here and now. That's the whole idea of it, whether it's physical, digital. It's much like I've been talking about for years. It's why I was so drawn to the strategy itself. It's the digital is great, but the physical, we're social human, we're social beings, right? So let's build these pockets of freedom in physical space and time, and that's the motive behind that. And if your audience is interested, like I said, VonuPodcast.com/second realm clips. It's broken down into 10 or 11 episodes, and really that's the best place to start. And there's also a really incredible book, Second Realm book on strategy, which we do offer at Libertarian Tech Publications. But again, everything is available for free on either the Vonu podcast website or the LUA website. So that's a little introduction. Happy to go into any aspects of it.
Yeah, and there's a wealth of information in books and audio on Liberty Under Attack publications that I've looked through and listened to, and that's an amazing resource you put together. And one thing you're talking about last we chatted was in the physical realm, actually trying to work with animals and land. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. So one of the very first things I realized last year was that I was wholly dependent on grocery stores, as most everyone else is, and I did not like that feeling. And I wasn't. I immediately went and got a couple lambs and a couple goats. No idea what I was doing, but figured it was a good place to start. Like about 22 acres here. There's an old chicken coop that I repurposed into the livestock house farm, and I got started with that. Yeah, not really knowing what I was. But over the course of last year, kept adding to the herd of lambs, and now I'm up to processed a couple around Thanksgiving, and now there's 5 or 6 out there, and we just had just within the past month or so 2 batches of new lambs. So yeah, I've done from start to finish lamb process from start to processing of a lamb from start. It's very, very easy. I was kind of surprised by that. And that's one thing. Then just this past weekend, we had a bunch of ducks hatching in an incubator. So I got 10 ducks that have been out getting a little bigger before I put them out in the new bird run that we just installed this past weekend too. And there's 20 chicks in addition to that, so I'll have 30 birds out here out in the front yard within the span of a couple weeks. But really, the goal for 2021 is food self-sufficiency, and we're well on our way there. And so I'll toss out a couple of really quick, really easy, really simple ideas for people who are looking to, make themselves more invulnerable to, the centralized food supply chains. Quail and rabbit are both very, very, they're very easy to raise. They don't require a lot of space, and it's quick turnaround nutrition wise. It's very, very easy to do. It's not hard. So yeah, you can construct your own little. I put together a little junky quail cage that's being used for the birds now. Didn't cost much. You get the birds, you put them in there, and you raise them, and you got yourself some good quality protein. So yeah, that's one thing that I guess I haven't done yet with rabbits or quail, but it's on the agenda. I feed my dog a raw meat diet, so I that's gonna be her food here whenever I get that started. But yeah, beyond that, I mentioned the birds. They're gonna be out here tearing up the front yard for the next 7 or 8 months and fertilizing it. And then maybe this winter, maybe next winter, we'll put up a little greenhouse out there maybe and do year-round growing. So I want to have a permaculture food forest out here. I want to raise a bunch of food out here. And one thing I've noticed from being out on the homestead, there are so many ways. There are so many ways to make money on a homestead. Whether it's yeah, like I said, that the ducks. I could raise ducklings, and I've looked around on Craigslist and other places. Don't see anyone else selling those, so I could pretty much set the market for that. There's lamb. Food is always in demand. Duck eggs. So there's a lot of opportunity that I'm finding out, and that's what I'm doing this year. That's what I'm busy with when I'm here at the homestead. It's basically taking care of animals in one form or another. So. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun, and I guess I want to emphasize again. I had no idea what I was doing with any of this stuff. Still, really, there's a lot of new stuff I'm experimenting with too. But I would just advise people not to, you know, not to overthink things too
Like,
much.
don't be intimidated. Basically, right? Like,
Yeah.
you just went out and got some lambs and started. And I did the same thing a few years ago. We got chickens. And it was, I thought, I don't know anything about this, but there's all these websites about how to keep chickens, and every time we had a problem, we'd look it up on those websites, and there's a bunch of different blogs and stories of how to deal with those situations, and it really wasn't that hard to have chickens. They're pretty easy, and they make this amazing poop that makes your garden grow. And I started using the poop from the chickens and putting it in my garden and having pretty friggin' amazing results.
Yeah.
And I personally think eggs are awesome because you don't have to kill a chicken to get the egg, and it gives you a lot of protein. But even for people out there who aren't into eating meat, like I was listening to Jack Spirko talking on the Greater Reset about how important it is to have different animals on your land. And by having, especially a variety of animals moving around on the land, the different way they turn up the ground and the different poop they make can actually create a system where the land grows its own food for its own animals. And that's the kind of lifestyle we need to get back to be self-sufficient. Because even the way I was doing it with the chickens, I kind of added it up, and with buying the feed and all the straw we were buying, or the wood chips and everything, I was almost paying close to 50 cents per egg, but way better eggs than you get in the store, so it was still worth it. But it takes a while to get good at it and to the point where you can make money, but the sooner you start, the sooner you're going to get there. And so it's just getting your feet wet and getting out there and trying it and starting to learn. The sooner the better, right? Another thing that you mentioned, which I kind of wanted to get back to, is like, I thought it was really humble of you to say, like, oh, I'm just,
exactly. You're right. And that's what sorry, it's unstable internet connection.
That's okay. We're getting a little bit of a delay. That's no problem. No, I was just getting onto the fact that I thought it was really humble of you to say, I'm just still learning things. But I think that is one of the key fundamentals to all this. Everything we're discussing, being humble and being willing to keep learning,
Yeah, for sure. And there's so much more too. Like I've got much bigger plans. I've got much bigger plans. Like for example, I'm a type 1 diabetic, and I've been looking into other I guess Eastern medicine, like Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine. They've had I guess herbal solutions for diabetes for a long time. So I've been looking into I guess the possible herbal solutions for that. And I'm not sure if any of your if you're familiar with, or any of your listeners are familiar with spagyrics or things of that nature. But I plan on hopefully getting into some of that stuff too. Actually, growing some of these things and making I don't know, just there's so much, there's like you said, there's so much to learn. There's so much once you kind of I guess once you I guess allow yourself to I guess, once I'm trying to think of the best way to word this, but yeah, once you open your mind to some of the things that are out there, it's mind blowing, and there's you should never be bored. To put it that way. I haven't I guess it's probably been probably a year now, at least a year. I haven't watched any Netflix or any entertainment or anything like that. And because I mean I really haven't needed to. There's whether it's no matter what it is, there's always something exciting here on the homestead. There's regardless. I guess always definitely always be learning. Definitely always be learning.
And it gives you energy and juice when you're learning. I've experienced that many times in my life. I think a lot of people hear some of the things we're talking about and they say to themselves, "Oh, I would love to do some of that, but I just don't have time." But they're still, in many cases, spending time watching Netflix or watching the news or, just with the TV on, just watching entertainment. And the truth is, like you're saying, that can be totally cut out of your life. I did it years ago. I can't even think of the last time I've watched a sitcom show.
Yeah.
Occasionally I like to watch a movie, especially if I'm with someone and we can discuss, what we've been watching. But free time I spend studying, working on presentations, creating podcasts, having interviews, meeting with other people online. That's all I do. And it's fun. It's exciting because I know it's the path towards freedom. And it's not going to happen any other way. It's not going to happen on its own. And certainly authorities and governments are not going to just give us freedom. We have to earn it the hard way. And it's a fun thing to start opening these doors and see, like, okay, what can we do? I think it takes that extra creativity that is really lacking in our society. So I'm glad to hear about what you're doing in the physical world and the podcast. Do you have any big plans for the Vonu podcast? Is that just going to keep going, or you got anything planned for the future on your internet stuff?
So the Vonu podcast is we'll continue inevitably into the future. I guess just indeterminately as long as it does. Still doing that. I don't do weekly releases or whatever. I release whenever I feel like I have something worthy of releasing. Whenever I'm feeling I guess it's more random now, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. But there's still a good amount of content coming out over there. I'll keep putting out stuff there. We'll continue putting out books on self-liberation over at LUA Publications, libertarianattack.com. And if any of your audience, if they're authors, if they're working on publishing a book and they're looking for assistance, we always love to assist authors in that too. Beyond the I guess the freedom stuff, being an author and writer myself, I really enjoy taking someone, helping someone's book through that process. So if any of your audience, we love, like anarchist and agorist fiction. We love, libertarian philosophy, economic solution stuff, anything like that. So we'd love to help publish. And then, for physical space and time, P.A.Z.nia.com, P.A.Z.nia. I guess I should mention that the name for it, P.A.Z. is short for Permanent Autonomous Zone, and P.A.Z. is peace in Spanish. We're still working towards food self-sufficiency here. I said that we've got VonuFest 2 coming up at the end of the year, and I've got actually an unofficial camping and riding weekend happening here at the Free Republic in just a few weekends. So If anyone's interested in meeting some real human beings who are committed to these principles and building in real real in the real world, P.A.Z.nia.com. You can join our Telegram channel, our committee of correspondence chat group, and get in there, and love to chat with folks, and love to meet you. With that said, man, I appreciate you having me on. Appreciate reconnecting, and I just want to emphasize um, freedom is definitely possible, guys. It's definitely possible, and just got to put in the work. Just got to put in the work to make it happen.
Yeah, and it's a long-term game. You can't allow yourself to get all frustrated because the first show you put out only gets 2 views, and the first people you talk to don't understand what you're talking about. It takes years. Look at Shane's been working on this 5, 6 years, and you know, finally starting to see some changes. And I've been working on this for quite a few years, and I finally started meeting other people and forming some groups, but I still have a long way to go. And society is, as far as I can tell, going in the wrong direction right now. So this is going to be a long-term project. We can't change everyone overnight or even in the next year. But we can be working on things ourselves. So, I mean, I think that's what we can encourage our listeners, to do, right? Is start making changes and start moving forward just one step at a time. And I guess to kind of close it up, though, I was kind of curious, the End Evil podcast, I like to go over like natural law. The idea of natural law is really important to me. I think that is like the missing link in most people's minds, is not understanding that the things you do matter. So I'm a little curious what you think about hermetics, natural law, morality. You got any comments you can make on those subjects?
Sure. So, I guess in terms of natural law, I came across Mark Passio's work on it a few years back, and I've been familiar with it. Of course, at that time, it was pretty easy to assimilate with anarchism, with non-aggression, my path really started out with Bill Cooper's Mystery Babylon. So, I was familiar with some of these concepts and ideas. Bill took a different approach on some of them, but regardless, it fits right in line with my focus. I guess I just it's Vonu's all about coercion, or I guess anti-coercion, so to speak, and it fits right in line with that. Obviously, and Rayo talked about working in accordance with nature and all of those things. So yeah, I'm definitely a proponent of natural law, and in terms of hermetic principles, it's another thing I've come across and in the past year. I probably know a couple of principles off the top of my head, but I just haven't looked into it specifically yet. But I'm pretty sure aren't a couple of the hermetic principles, isn't there like as above so below, and the law of correspondence? Those are a couple of them, right? Those are a couple of them.
You got it. Yep.
Okay.
Right.
Yep. All right.
Yeah.
It's just making sure I've okay. Yeah. So
all this mind,
all of these
mentalism,
things.
correspondence. Yeah.
Yep.
Vibration.
Yep. So Yep. So I haven't looked into that specifically, but if you look at Ayurveda or traditional Chinese medicine, or a lot of these other areas, these principles are just inherent in like everything. If you're examining nature, if you're examining reality, you're going to come across these principles. I've likened it to to use an example here on the homestead, and with what I've been looking into with my personal health. If you become an expert on like the gut microbiome of like your gut, you're actually you kind of became a soil scientist too. As above, so below, as within, so without. I mean, it's all there. It's all there. That's been my biggest discovery of the past years is investigating those things. So I can't offer too much beyond it's incredible stuff. And it's stuff that I imagine I'll be studying for the rest of my life. So yeah, I guess that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I mean that the fact that you clued in so early to, freedom and understanding that importance. It's like I think a lot of people are still lost in there's no such thing as truth, or um, you can believe whatever you want, which, yeah, you can, but that's not productive when there is a such thing of truth. There are true things, and we can figure out some of those true things are pretty obvious, like we shouldn't hurt other people. We shouldn't make other people do things that they don't want to do. That shouldn't be that difficult. But somehow our society has convoluted these really simple ideas and made them seem really difficult, and convinced people that they can that it's okay just to stick with all these belief systems and call them law, and enforce them on other people, which is just mind blowing. Like you said before, it's when you start to really see it's just mind blowing that has happened. It just doesn't even make sense. But here we are.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much kind of the stuff I had written down to talk to you about, and did a really good job covering all these points. And I recently downloaded on my phone. I started getting the VonuPad podcasts going again. I've been listening to some of those, so thanks for putting that all together. I'm appreciating that.
Yeah.
And I ordered the book, so I recommend other people check out Vonu and the story, the writer Rayo and his story and information about becoming invulnerable to coercion. It's a great subject matter. Yeah. So, anything else you want to close up with, Shane?
I mean, not really. I appreciate like I've said already. I appreciate you having me on. It's been a great conversation, great reconnecting, and I guess I'll just as I pretty much always leave every episode of the Vonu podcast with always remember Vonu is yours for the making. We all come from different backgrounds, different positions, and so we have different desires, different different maybe just different paths in life in general. So yeah, Vonu is yours for the making, and yeah, always be looking for opportunities to increase your personal freedom, because they are abundant.
Right on. Thanks, Shane. Really appreciate it. I find your things you say and the work you've done very inspirational, and I think anyone who listens to this show will feel the same. So, right on, man. Good work. And we'll have to keep in touch and have another conversation in the future.
For sure. Anytime, man. Anytime.
Yeah.